South Africa, terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
Ladies and gentlemen around the world, and the people of the United States of America, and definitely the people of all Africa, I am Kituko X Kihinde, and today we find ourselves at a pivotal moment in history, a time when the echoes of the past are resonating in the present. President Donald Trump's decision to stop United States aid to South Africa, particularly in response to the country's land restitution policies, has sparked a necessary debate on colonialism, slavery, and the lasting impact of historical injustices. At the heart of this debate lies the rightful return of land to the South African people, a people who for centuries were subjected to colonization, exploitation, and enslavement. To understand the importance of land restitution in South Africa, we must first look at the history. Now, beginning in 1600s, European powers, including the Dutch and the British, arrived in South Africa with a single aim: to colonize and control. Through force, deceit, and exploitation, they seized vast areas of land, displacing the indigenous African population. This process didn't just take land. It took dignity, culture, and identity from the people who had lived there for centuries. The legacy of this colonization was devastating. The indigenous people were forced into reserves, stripped of their right to own land, and subject to a system of racial segregation and discrimination. The effects of this historical injustice are still felt today. In fact, the apartheid system, which formally institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination from 1948 to 1994, was simply a continuation of the policies that began with European colonial settlers. Now, fast forward to the modern era. The end of apartheid in 1994 was a momentous achievement, signaling the end of institutionalized racism and the beginning of a new era of South Africa. However, the scars of colonization remain. Despite the end of the apartheid, the majority of South Africa's land still remained in the hands of a small, predominantly white minority, while the black population, who had been forcibly removed from their ancestral land, continued to live in poverty and deprivation. In recent years, the South African government has made efforts to address this inequality through land restitution programs. The goal is simple: return the land that was stolen from the indigenous people back to them. This policy is not about revenge, nor is it an attack on anyone's personal wealth or property. It's about righting a historical wrong and giving the people of South Africa the opportunity to reclaim what was unjustly taken from them. Now, President Trump's decision to stop funding South Africa due to these land reform efforts has sparked much debate. Some argue that this action is unfair and ill-advised. However, it is essential to understand that land reform is not only a moral imperative, it's also a matter of justice. The people of South Africa, particularly the black majority, have been waiting for generations to claim their land back. They are simply seeking what was taken from them centuries ago. Understand that. The history of slavery and colonization in South Africa is a painful reminder of the depths of human cruelty. From the Dutch East Indian companies established of a colony at Cape of Good Hope in 1652 to the forced labor systems that entrenched inequality to the violent land seizures that followed. The effects of European domination was devastating. Enslaved Africans were forced to work on farms, mines, and on plantations where their ancestors' land was stolen. By the time apartheid ended, over 80% of South Africa's land was controlled by just 13% of the population. To deny South Africa the right to reclaim its land will be perpetuate the legacy of colonial oppression. Land reform is not an act of vengeance. It is an effort to restore balance and give back the people what should have never been taken from them. This is a matter of justice and acknowledging the wrong of the past and working towards a more equitable future. We must also recognize the global context. Countries around the world have grappled similar issues, from reparations for slavery to the return of indigenous land in the Americas, Australia, and New Zealand. The goal is not to rewrite history, but to ensure that the current generation is not forced to live with the consequences of the past justices. In this sense, South Africa's land reform efforts are part of a broader movement toward justice and reconciliation. While President Trump's decision to cut aid may be seen by some as a stand for private property rights, it is essential to consider the broader implications of denying land reform. It is a reminder that despite the end of apartheid, the legacies of colonialism and racial inequality still persist. The land restitution process is about more than just land. It's about dignity, empowerment, and the right of the South Africans to control their own destiny. In conclusion, the decision to take back the land is not just a political move. It's an act of historical justice. The land was stolen. The people were oppressed. And now the land must be returned. It is only right that the South African government takes steps to correct the wrongs of the past. As we watch these events unfold, let us remember that true justice is not merely about looking backwards, but about ensuring a fair and equitable future for all. I want to thank y'all for listening, and make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, to this channel, and let's share and comment on this video, and let me know what y'all think about this situation, man. I am Kituko X Kihinde. Let's make Africa great again. MAGA.